Successful people understand that what they avoid doing is just as important as what they do. They know that their achievements are shaped not only by the actions they take, but also by the habits and attitudes they refuse to entertain. There are certain behaviors, thoughts, and distractions that they steer clear because they threaten these as silent thieves of success. To follow their path, you must learn to avoid these pitfalls with unwavering discipline and clarity. First, successful people avoid procrastination. They understand that delaying action breeds doubt and drains momentum. Every moment wasted postponing your work is an opportunity lost, and success rewards those who act decisively and promptly. They know the difference between thoughtful planning and endless hesitation. While others wait for perfect conditions or the ideal moment, successful individuals seize the moment and make it perfect through action. They also avoid negative thinking and self-doubt. The mind is a fertile ground where seeds of failure can easily take root if not guarded carefully. Successful people maintain a mindset of faith and positivity. They refuse to entertain fears and limiting beliefs that paralyze progress. Instead, they feed their minds with thoughts of possibility, strength, and perseverance. This mental discipline keeps their vision clear and their will strong. Successful people avoid aimlessness and lack of purpose. Without a definite goal, energy dissipates and efforts become scattered. They know that success demands a clear, burning desire, an unshakable focus on a specific outcome. Wandering through life without direction is a sure way to end in mediocrity. They cultivate a definite purpose and let it guide every decision and action. This sense of purpose is the compass that keeps them on the path when distractions and difficulties arise. Another thing they avoid is surrounding themselves with negative influences. People who doubt, criticize, or lack ambition can drag down even the most determined individual. Successful people choose their associations carefully, seeking those who uplift, inspire, and challenge them to grow. They understand that the company they keep shapes their character and future. Toxic relationships and environments are avoided like traps that steal energy and focus. Successful people also avoid the trap of comfort and complacency. They know that growth happens outside the comfort zone and that resting on past achievements is a quick road to decline. They constantly push themselves to learn, improve, and stretch their limits. They welcome challenges as opportunities to develop strength and skill. Avoiding complacency keeps their edge sharp and their progress steady. Moreover, successful people avoid making excuses. They take full responsibility for their lives and refuse to blame circumstances, others, or luck. Excuses are a form of self-sabotage that limits growth and diminishes personal power. Instead, they confront obstacles with resourcefulness and resolve. This refusal to shift blame empowers them to find solutions and keep moving forward regardless of difficulty. Lastly, successful people avoid inconsistency. They understand that success is built through persistent, disciplined effort. Sporadic bursts of enthusiasm followed by long periods of neglect produce no lasting results. They cultivate habits of daily commitment and steady progress. This consistency transforms dreams into reality and builds a foundation that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. In summary, the path to success is as much about avoidance as it is about action. Avoid procrastination, negative thoughts, aimlessness, toxic influences, complacency, excuses, and inconsistency. These are the silent enemies that block the road to achievement. By steering clear of these pitfalls with vigilance and determination, you align yourself with the principles that successful people live by. Success is not just what you do, it is also what you refuse to do. Choose wisely and watch your life. They avoid procrastination. Procrastination is the silent killer of dreams. a quiet thief that robs men and women of the future they desire. Successful people understand this truth deeply, and for that reason, they avoid procrastination with relentless discipline. They know that every delayed action pushes their goals further out of reach. Where the average person waits for inspiration or perfect conditions, those committed to greatness act despite how they feel. They move forward when it's uncomfortable, unclear, or inconvenient, because they understand that action, not intention, determines destiny. The habit of putting things off creates a false sense of security. It whispers, you have time, or you can do it tomorrow. But tomorrow is not promised, and the opportunity that stands before you today may not be there again. Successful people live with urgency, not in anxiety, but with a clear understanding that life rewards the decisive. They see time as their most precious asset, not to be squandered, but invested. Every moment counts. Every hour is an opportunity, and they use time as a tool, not as an excuse. Procrastination feeds on fear. Fear of failure, fear of imperfection, fear of judgment. But successful individuals face those fears head-on. They understand that fear loses its power when confronted with consistent action. Instead of allowing doubt to paralyze them, they use it as fuel to sharpen their focus and move with greater determination. They do not need all the answers to begin. They start where they are, with what they have, and trust that clarity will come through motion. Discipline is the weapon they use to defeat procrastination. While emotion-driven people wait to feel like it, those who succeed have trained themselves to act regardless of feeling. They understand that motivation is unreliable, but discipline is unwavering. They schedule their goals, prioritize their tasks, and take consistent steps each day, even when inspiration is absent. This daily grind, this unseen effort, is what separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. Successful people also avoid procrastination because they understand the compounding power of action. Small steps taken consistently lead to massive results over time. A single phone call, a few pages read, a conversation initiated, a plan started. These seemingly insignificant actions, repeated day after day, build unstoppable momentum. They trust the process, knowing that greatness is not built overnight, but through persistent effort over time. They also eliminate distractions that feed procrastination. They guard their focus as if their life depends on it, because in truth, it does. Social media, endless scrolling, meaningless conversations. These are traps they refuse to fall into. They design their environments for productivity, set boundaries to protect their time, and build habits that align with their purpose. Where others get lost in busyness, successful people remain anchored in effectiveness. The avoidance of procrastination also ties to their deep sense of responsibility. They do not wait for someone else to give them a push. They do not depend on deadlines to force their hand. Instead, they operate with internal urgency, knowing that the responsibility to succeed rests fully on their shoulders. This ownership drives them to act now, not later, to pursue, to produce, to press forward with clarity and courage. In the end, the choice to act or delay is one of the most critical decisions a person makes each day. Those who live by action will always outpace those who wait for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment, only the one you create through movement. Success belongs to the doers, the bold, the disciplined souls who do not allow procrastination to dictate their future. By choosing action over delay, purpose over passivity, successful people set themselves apart. They move when others freeze. They execute when others hesitate. And because of this, they rise while others remain stuck in the waiting room of life. The battle against procrastination is a daily one, but those who win it reap the rewards of a life fully lived and goals truly achieved. They avoid negative thinking and self-doubt. Negative thinking and self-doubt are the silent saboteurs of success. They creep into the mind quietly, planting seeds of fear, hesitation, and limitation. Successful people have learned, often through struggle and failure, that these inner voices must be conquered, not coddled. They do not entertain thoughts that weaken their resolve or diminish their potential. They understand that the mind is either a garden or a battlefield, and whichever you allow it to become will determine the harvest of your life. To achieve anything of significance, the first victory must be won within. The thoughts you entertain shape your emotions, your decisions, your actions, and ultimately your outcomes. That is why successful individuals take full control of their mental environment. They treat their minds like sacred ground. If a thought does not uplift, empower, or move them forward, they dismiss it. They know that negative thinking corrodes confidence and builds invisible walls between them and their destiny. Self-doubt often disguises itself as logic or caution. It whispers, "You're not ready," or "What if you fail?" But successful people recognize that doubt is a liar. They know they will never feel fully ready, and that every great achievement begins with stepping into the unknown. They embrace imperfect action over perfect inaction. They understand that confidence is not something you wait for. It is something you build through action and persistence. They avoid comparison because they know it fuels self-doubt. Comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10 is a recipe for discouragement. Successful people measure their progress against their own potential. They focus on their growth, not someone else's timeline. They see setbacks as setups for comebacks. Instead of beating themselves up for falling short, they learn, adjust, and keep moving. Their mindset is not fixed. It is fueled by resilience and faith in their capacity to improve. One of the most powerful habits of successful people is guarding the input that reaches their minds. They avoid toxic media, negative people, and pessimistic conversations. They read books that inspire, listen to voices that elevate, and surround themselves with individuals who believe in possibilities. They understand that negativity is contagious, and so is positivity. They choose their influences with care because they know that what surrounds them will eventually live inside them. Self-talk is another weapon they wield with intention. Instead of repeating doubts, they affirm their goals, strengths, and potential daily. They speak victory even in the face of defeat. They program their minds for success, one declaration at a time. Over time, this rewiring becomes a shield against discouragement and a source of quiet strength in the storm. Successful people also practice gratitude and visualization. Gratitude shifts focus from what's lacking to what's possible. It opens the heart and clears the mind of negativity. Visualization allows them to see success in advance, to feel it as if it's already real. This mental rehearsal builds belief, and belief is the fuel for action. Doubt shrinks in the face of a clear and vivid vision. Most importantly, they understand that negative thinking and self-doubt are not completely avoidable, but they are manageable. The key is not to eliminate every doubtful thought, but to refuse to dwell on it, to acknowledge it, confront it, and replace it with truth. They train their minds like a muscle. Just as the body grows stronger through resistance, the mind grows stronger through the daily choice to reject defeat and choose belief. In the end, the ones who rise are not those without fear, but those who refuse to bow to it. Successful people master their inner world so they can master the outer one. They refuse to be prisoners of their thoughts. They become leaders of their mind, and by doing so, they free themselves to live with boldness, clarity, and unshakable determination. They avoid aimlessness and lack of purpose. Aimlessness is one of the greatest destroyers of human potential. A person without a clear sense of purpose is like a ship without a rudder, drifting, tossed by every wave, easily distracted, and never reaching a meaningful destination. Successful people avoid this state at all costs. They live with intention. They wake up with direction. They know where they're going, and every step they take, every decision they make, is guided by a vision larger than the moment. The truly successful do not simply work hard. They work with purpose. Purpose brings focus. It acts like a magnet, drawing in the resources, opportunities, and people needed to fulfill the mission. Without purpose, work becomes mechanical, energy becomes scattered, and life becomes a series of reactions rather than creation. But with a clear purpose, even mundane tasks are infused with meaning, and obstacles become stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. Those who rise above mediocrity do not wait for purpose to show up. They pursue it. They ask the hard questions. Why am I here? What do I want to accomplish? What impact do I want to leave behind? They seek the answers not just once, but continually, refining and adjusting as they grow. They understand that purpose is not just found, it is forged in the fires of self-discovery, challenge, and commitment. Successful people avoid living by default. They don't let the opinions of others or the trends of the moment dictate their direction. They set their own compass. They define success on their own terms and pursue it with relentless clarity. In contrast, those who live without purpose often fall into patterns of busyness without progress. They confuse movement with momentum and activity with achievement. But success is not about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. When you have a purpose, decisions become simpler. You can say no to what doesn't align and yes to what moves you closer to your goal. Purpose becomes a filter for focus. It eliminates distractions and clarifies priorities. It gives you a reason to rise early, to endure hardship, to push through fatigue and failure. Without it, even small challenges can feel overwhelming, but with it, even mountains seem conquerable. Purpose also fuels passion. When you're connected to something meaningful, your energy multiplies. You don't need external motivation because the fire burns within. This inner drive gives you an edge. It helps you stand firm when others fall away. It keeps you grounded when success comes, and it keeps you hopeful when progress is slow. Purpose gives life color, direction, and weight. It anchors your efforts to a vision that transcends the temporary. Successful people regularly revisit their purpose. They reflect, realign, and recommit. They know that clarity fades with time, and so they make space to reconnect with their why. They journal, meditate, visualize, and plan. They set goals that reflect their deeper values, not just surface-level desires. This ongoing process ensures that their actions are not just productive, but meaningful. Living with purpose does not mean life will be easy, but it does mean that life will be worth it. There will still be challenges, disappointments, and moments of doubt, but purpose provides the strength to persevere, the resilience to rebound, and the courage to continue. It is the compass that keeps your journey true even when the path gets hard. In the end, the difference between a wandering life and a winning life is purpose. The successful do not stumble through their days. They stride through them with direction. They do not exist just to survive. They live to fulfill a mission, and because of that, they achieve what others only dream of. Aimlessness is the enemy of greatness, but purpose, once embraced, becomes the foundation of a powerful, focused, and fulfilling life. They avoid toxic and negative influences. Successful people understand that their environment shapes their destiny. They are acutely aware that the voices they listen to, the attitudes they absorb, and the people they surround themselves with either lift them higher or pull them down. That is why they are relentless in avoiding toxic and negative influence. These influences may come dressed in familiarity, friends, family, co-workers, or even social media feeds. But the successful recognized that no relationship or connection is worth sacrificing their vision, peace, or progress. Toxic influences are not always obvious. Sometimes they come in the form of constant complainers, those who always find a reason why something can't be done. Sometimes they come as subtle manipulators, who plant seeds of doubt and fear under the mask of concern. Others may disguise their negativity in sarcasm or pessimistic humor, but no matter how they appear, successful people are masters at identifying these energies and protecting themselves from their poison. They do not allow others to impose limitations on their thinking or lower their standards. Negativity is contagious. Just as enthusiasm spreads, so does defeatism. Being around people who constantly talk about what's wrong, who blame others, who criticize dreamers, or who dwell in fear can infect your mindset. It lowers your vibration. It clouds your clarity. It chips away at your confidence. Successful people guard their minds like warriors. They know that greatness requires mental clarity and emotional strength, and they refuse to expose themselves to anything that weakens those essentials. The company you keep determines the conversations you have, and the conversations you have determine the thoughts you think. Over time, those thoughts shape your beliefs and actions. That's why successful people choose to spend time with those who believe in growth, who challenge them to rise higher, and who speak life rather than death into their goals. They seek mentors, collaborators, and peers who inspire, uplift, and encourage them, not those who drain them or hold them back. They also manage their digital environment with the same discipline. The content they consume matters. They do not fill their minds with toxic media, endless negativity, or sensational distractions. They understand that everything they watch, read, or listen to plants something in the soil of their mind. They choose to feed themselves with content that builds, educates, and expands. They eliminate noise and choose nourishment. Avoiding toxic and negative influences does not mean arrogance or judgment. It means discernment. Successful people are not unkind. They are unapologetically selective. They understand that they only get one life, one mission, and one mind. And they will not jeopardize their future for the comfort of maintaining draining relationships. If someone consistently brings confusion, drama, or discouragement, they step back or step away. Peace is priceless, and progress demands it. In many cases, distancing from negativity means making hard choices. It may mean saying goodbye to longtime companions or walking away from familiar circles. But the successful know that the cost of remaining in toxic environments is far greater than the temporary discomfort of separation. They trust that as they clear space, the right people and opportunities will enter. They are not afraid to walk alone for a season if it means staying true to their vision. They also take responsibility for eliminating internal negativity. Toxic influences are not always external. Sometimes the most damaging voices are the ones in your own head. Successful people do the work to reprogram their inner dialogue, to release bitterness, and to cultivate a mindset of faith and positivity. They do not let past wounds, failures, or fears poison their present. Ultimately, success is not just about skill, strategy, or talent. It's about energy, and that energy must be protected. By avoiding toxic and negative influences, successful people create a space where excellence can grow, vision can thrive, and purpose can be fulfilled. They rise not just because of what they do, but because of what they refuse to allow in their lives. They avoid comfort zones and complacency. The comfort zone is a silent trap. It feels safe, familiar, and easy, but it is also where dreams die and potential withers. Successful people know this truth intimately. That's why they make it a point to avoid the trap of comfort zones and the slow poison of complacency. They understand that growth only happens when they stretch beyond what feels. They deliberately put themselves in situations that challenge them, demand more from them, and force them to become better than they were yesterday. Comfort is the enemy of progress. It tells you to slow down, to settle, to stay where things are manageable. It whispers, "You've done enough," even when there is still more in you to give. Complacency convinces people to stop reaching, to stop risking, and to protect what they have rather than build something greater. But those who achieve real success live by a different code. They do not fear discomfort, they chase it. They see it as a signal that they are on the edge of transformation. There is no mastery inside the comfort zone. No breakthroughs, no great stories. All growth happens at the border of what you know and what you don't. And the successful are willing to step into the unknown again and again. They take the leap even when their hands shake. They speak up even when their voice trembles. They try new things, pursue bold goals, and willingly risk failure. Not because they enjoy struggle, but because they know that struggle is the path to strength. They understand that complacency is not just a lack of movement, it is a mindset. It starts when people stop asking how they can improve, when they start believing they've already arrived. That kind of thinking kills innovation. It closes doors. It leads to a slow decline, masked by temporary comfort. But successful people stay hungry. No matter how much they achieve, they are always looking for the next level of excellence. They live with a spirit of curiosity, a desire to evolve, and a refusal to settle. Avoiding comfort zones also means embracing failure. Most people stay in their safe spaces because they are afraid to fall. But the successful have reframed failure, not as something to fear, but as something to learn from. They know that every stumble sharpens their character. Every setback reveals a weakness to improve. Every disappointment contains a lesson. By facing these head-on, they grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient. They also surround themselves with people who challenge them, not just cheer them. They seek feedback, mentorship, and environments that push them to stretch. They don't want to be the smartest person in the room. They want to be in rooms that force them to rise. They trade ease for excellence and applause for accountability. They thrive on growth, not praise. Daily routines also reflect their avoidance of complacency. While others might coast, the successful review their goals regularly, track their progress, and stay aligned with their vision. They don't rely on yesterday's effort to produce tomorrow's results. They keep refining, improving, and sharpening their skill. They read, learn, practice, and grow, not just when it's required, but because it's a way of life. Ultimately, successful people are not superhuman. They are simply committed to never staying the same, committed to living on the edge of growth, committed to the uncomfortable path that leads to greatness. They understand that comfort feels good for a moment, but progress feels good for a lifetime. So they choose the road less traveled, the path that stretches their limits and forces their evolution. And because of that choice, they continue to rise while others remain stuck in the illusion of safety. They avoid excuses and take full responsibility. Excuses are the comfort food of the unsuccessful. They offer temporary relief, a way to shift blame and dodge discomfort, but they ultimately rob a person of growth, progress, and power. Successful people know this. That is why they refuse to make excuses. They don't waste time blaming others, pointing fingers, or justifying failure. Instead, they take full and absolute responsibility for their lives, their actions, and their outcomes. They understand that as long as they make excuses, they give away control and with it the power to change anything. Taking responsibility is not always easy, but it is always necessary. It means admitting when you've fallen short. It means acknowledging your role in the result, even when circumstances were against you. It means choosing to focus on what you can do, rather than what you can't. The successful live by a powerful truth. Your life is your responsibility, not your parents', not your bosses, not society's, not luck's, yours. And that truth becomes the foundation for lasting transformation. People who cling to excuses often wait for perfect conditions, more time, better resources, or someone else's approval. But successful people act in spite of imperfection. They don't wait for motivation to strike or for the world to align. They take initiative. They use what they have, where they are, and do what they can every single day. This mindset separates the average from the extraordinary. Where others say, "I can't," because they say, "I will anyway." The danger of excuses is that they feel so reasonable. I didn't have the time. I didn't get the opportunity. I wasn't born with the right connections. But these are mental traps. They shift the focus from action to avoidance. Excuses are the stories people tell themselves to avoid doing the hard work of changing. The successful rewrite those stories. They replace excuses with ownership. They take command of their thoughts, decisions, and direction. Responsibility is freedom. It may seem like a burden at first, but it is the key to unlocking your potential. When you take responsibility, you are no longer a victim of your circumstances. You become the author of your future. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop waiting and start doing. This shift in mindset creates momentum. One choice leads to another, and before long a new reality is born. Not from luck, but from leadership. Even in failure, successful people take responsibility. They don't run from mistakes. They face them. They extract lessons, adjust course, and come back stronger. They know that failure is not final unless you refuse to learn from it. Blame traps you in the past. Responsibility propels you into the future. Every great success story is filled with moments of error, misstep, and loss, but it is also filled with someone who refused to blame and chose instead to grow. Taking responsibility also builds character. It earns respect. It deepens trust. Leaders rise when they can be counted on, not just in moments of ease, but in moments of pressure and failure. People follow those who don't hide behind excuses, but stand in the truth and own their part. This integrity becomes a magnet for opportunity, collaboration, and influence. Ultimately, the ones who succeed are not the ones with the most talent, time, or luck. They are the ones who make a decision to stop making excuses and start making progress. They recognize that every excuse made is a wall between them and their destiny, and every step taken in responsibility is a brick laid on the path to greatness. So they choose power over pity, action over avoidance, and ownership over blame. That's why they rise and why others stay stuck.